Hello everybody and welcome to another top 5 board gaming video. Today's topic is all about great games that have horrible components. This is something that I have talked about throughout the years, noting some individual specific ones as I've gone through several different lists, but I kind of wanted to get them all together. And the thing is that this is really all about, I understand there's a brevity and a balance between I want to have a great game, I want to have good components, but I also want to keep costs down. I want to make sure that I can get it into as many gamers' hands as possible. But at the same time, there are just some things that you cannot skimp out on. And so that's what we are here to talk about today. Now, of course, as always, please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Are there any games that you think have a great quality gameplay, but just components that don't match that feeling? Let me know anything and everything in the comments, because you know I love to hear it all. But that said, we're going to dive right in with my number 5. At number 5, I've got Everdell. I am a little bit pained to talk about this because Everdell is such a wonderful, well done game mechanically. Overall, it's just that some of the components really were kind of dropped when it comes to the ball. I mean, you've got some good aspects to the components, but you also have some really thin card stock. You've got some not so great player boards. You've got all of this kind of stuff that just doesn't add up to make a wonderful game, and frankly kind of takes you out of the immersion aspect of the whole thing. That said, it's so low on the list because it is still a truly wonderful game, and overall the poor components don't take away from the experience so much that it's not an enjoyable game, but it is something that's noticeable, and so Everdell comes in at my number 5. At number 4, I've got the double whammy of Power Grid as well as Puerto Rico, both of these being games that I did reviews and demos of long time ago in an apartment far, far away, and I talked about the exact same issue, and that is money. Money in economic games like this is by far the most handled thing. You're passing it between players, the banker, all this kind of stuff, and doing all of this. You're messing around with it, and in both cases, the money is simply paper. It's thin paper, it's not even decent card stock, it feels like Monopoly money, which incidentally would fit in the same way into this category and this particular spot. The thing is that it's the only real issue with these games. The rest of the components are great, but the money is so bad. It's absolutely awful, and I highly recommend that anybody who plays these games use literally anything except for the money that it comes with. Use poker chips, use coins, use game-specific money that you can go out and get. Do whatever it is that you can to not use the money from these games. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Power Grid / Puerto Rico / other Euros, incidentally, are collectively my number 4. At number 3, I've got Dominant Species. This is a game that comes to us from GMT Games and is a kind of upped version of Evolution from North Star Games, where the idea is that you are trying to take control of different territories that are ever changing in a different climate and all of this kind of thing. And the fact is that the game itself is highly complex, a lot of fun, deeply strategic, and has some amazing mechanics to it. But the components, other than the board itself, are when it comes to comparisons with not only other GMT games in particular, but other games of this level of strategy and things like that, the components just do not measure up, frankly. And it's very disappointing in a game like this, because you would hope that there would be really good quality boards for the hexes as well as for the player boards and all that kind of thing. The player boards are not too bad. The cards are okay, but those hexes are just at best, and for me it just kind of takes away from the experience overall, which is why it's higher up on the list than the other two, because I expect more from GMT, and in particular I expect more from a game that is more deeply strategic and has you so involved with all of the components at any given time. Dominant Species, my number 3. At number 2, I've got Terraforming Mars, and if you've ever played the game without any modifications, you know why it's so high on the list. Player boards. It is ridiculous. The player boards in this game are used to track your resources, and the problem is that the base game has no way of keeping the stupid little cubes where they're supposed to be. It is absolutely ridiculous and it makes no sense. I don't understand how they could have dropped the ball so badly on something fundamental to the game. This is how you purchase things. This is how you get new cards on the board. This is how you get new tiles into the map. This is how you do everything. And with a stiff breeze, you can no longer know what it is that you have for every individual category. It's ridiculous. And so you see a ton of 3D printable things on Thingiverse, as well as, making acrylic sort of stands that go over the tops and all of this kind of thing that at least improve things. And on top of that, in the new collector's edition for it, they fixed it because they realized that it was so bad. It's absolutely awful, and it just can ruin the experience extremely easily, especially at a busy moving around type of table, which, let's face it, most gaming tables are. And so just because of that, it is a crux of the game. Everything else is fine. You've got good quality cards, good quality board, good quality tiles, all of that. But those player boards and those little cubes moving around puts this at number 2. At number 1, I've got the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. This is a game that I have talked about in this exact context multiple times because I don't understand it. Every single piece in this game is virtually garbage. I feel like I have to handle it with kid gloves every single time I play it because the boards and everything that you use to play the game, the entire game, is so thin. It's not quite thin as paper, but it's barely decent cardstock that you would get a high school diploma off of. If even that. I don't even know if it's that thin or thick. I have to measure it. But that said, it's just so frustrating because, again, this is every single component to the game. It's all of the castle rooms, it's all of the basic puzzle pieces that you're using to build everything out, and every single one of them, it feels like it's going to tear just by you lifting it up slightly, much less actually holding it. It's just, it doesn't work, and for such a wonderful game, it is so frustrating to see. So Castles of Mad King Ludwig, or Ludwig, I apologize, by a decent amount is my number 1. Well, everybody, that's going to be it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my sort of top worst games that are truly wonderful games mechanically, but just drop the ball when it comes to at least some of the components that are key to playing the game. For me, it reduces the immersion, it makes the game less fun, and I feel like I have to be very gentle when going through and actually playing the game. And I don't want to feel that. I want to feel like I can do what I need to do without ripping and tearing apart the game that I have. Of course, I don't want to damage my games, but at the same time, some of these feel like literally a stiff breeze is going to rip the entire thing apart, and I don't like that. And so again, this is something I've talked about throughout the years, both in passing as well as a bit more focused. And of course, I'm curious what you guys have to say. First and foremost, how important is it to have good quality components, and especially how do you compare it to the price of a game? Because again, there is a brevity of balance there where I understand you want to be able to release a game and you want it to be affordable, and so that means you don't necessarily have the highest quality components, but in the end, is it worth it? Do you want to have those lower quality components? Because I would prefer to pay a little bit more to have the best components possible. As always, let me know anything and everything you want to say in the comments, because you know I love to hear it. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at my various social media pages where you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really fun ways. But with that, thank you so very much again for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.